friends, Drex here from DrexFactor.com, kicking off an entire month devoted to fire safety, specifically the skills you need to be a proper safety spotter. We're going to start off in this video by taking you through the most basic theory and most common techniques for putting out props. Before we dive in, of course, I just want to give a shout out to the friends of the channel. Big thanks to Dark Monk, Flow Toys, Pyroterra Light Toys, LMF Props, Spinballs, and Ultrapoi for helping to make the videos on this channel possible. You can learn more about all these amazing companies and the work they're doing to support flow artists like yourself by following the links down in the description of this video. So first up, if you're watching this video, you already deserve a massive debt of thanks for being interested in fire safety and more specifically in being a safety spotter. Now, being a safety spotter is sometimes a thankless job, but it's incredibly important both for keeping your friends safe as they explore their flow, as well as being a good steward in the community. Whether it's because a performer gets tired, bored, or even just reaches the end of what they're comfortable with, putting out props is something you're going to have to do at some point. To understand how to put out props, it's helpful to talk about the ingredients that make fire possible in the first place. Fire is caused by a chemical reaction called combustion. Combustion is an exothermic reaction wherein a fuel consisting primarily of hydrogen and carbon interacts with oxygen at high temperatures to produce light, heat, and chemical byproducts. Now, that's a really important thing to be aware of. Combustion requires all three of those things to be present: the fuel, the heat, and the oxygen. Because it would be either difficult or nearly impossible to remove the fuel or heat from a lit prop, all techniques for putting a prop out center around removing the third component from the equation: oxygen. All techniques for putting out fire props center on smothering combustion, that is, preventing oxygen from reaching the fuel. The most common way this is done is by enveloping the lit prop in a safety blanket designed to choke off the supply of oxygen to the wick. And that brings us to the sponsor of this month's videos, Mayday Atlanta. Mayday Atlanta makes durable, washable, and highly visible safety blankets that'll help you do your best work as a safety spotter. Seriously though, it only takes using one of these blankets once to realize how much better they are than traditional options like duvetine or a wet towel. Pick yours up today by using the promo code DrexFactor at checkout with MaydayATL.com. So with all that theory under our belts, let's talk for a moment about things that could go wrong, because it's easy to make mistakes when putting out a prop that will unintentionally make the fire worse, lead to injury, or both. Many people trying to put out props will resort to padding a safety blanket with the prop inside. Unfortunately, this tends to do more harm than good. Padding tends to fan the flames inside of a safety blanket, keeping the fire going and frequently alarming the safety spotter when they open the blanket back up. The goal here is to fully cut off the oxygen supply to the prop, so no matter which prop you're putting out, make sure to close the safety blanket over it firmly and consistently. No padding. The next complicating factor we should talk about is heat, and combustion produces a lot of it. Heat rises, and that means that one of the most dangerous places for flesh to be is above anything that is on fire. When putting out a prop, make sure you don't have your face or arm directly above a wick when opening the safety blanket back up. If for any reason the prop hasn't gone out, you're likely to receive a burn for your trouble. Make sure to fold the safety blanket away from you and to avoid having any body parts directly above the wicks. Cool, so let's talk about how we go about putting out fires with a variety of different kinds of props. First up, dynamic props. Dynamic props consist of any prop that has a wick attached to a long, flexible material. Examples of this include poi, rope dart, meteor, and puppy hammer. To put out dynamic props, you want to open the safety blanket up and place it down on the ground in front of you for the performer to drop their prop into. Have them place the wick and/or wicks in the center of the blanket and fold the edge of the blanket over away from you. Now roll the blanket up like a burrito. This will put several layers of the blanket between the wick and its oxygen supply. You can either hold the safety blanket in place or watch from a short distance to make sure it doesn't become undone. Either way, count to 5 in your head, thinking 1 1000, 2 1000, 3 1000, 4 1000, 5 1000. Now unroll and unfold the blanket, making sure to return it to its original state. If the prop remains lit, fold and roll the blanket once again. Repeat as necessary until the prop goes out. Next up, static props. Static props have a wick mounted to the end of a rigid object, such as a club or staff. The way we put out static props is very similar to dynamic props, but with one crucial difference. You still want to lay out the safety blanket and ask the performer to place their wick in the center of it, but this time we also want to make sure that the other end of the prop points out away from us as safety spotters. Just like with dynamic props, fold the blanket over away from you and then roll the blanket up like a burrito. This is why the end of the prop must point away from you, so it is not in the way of the burrito roll. Again, count to 5 seconds, thinking 1 1000, 2 1000, 3 1000, 4 1000, 5 1000. Now unroll and unfold the blanket, making sure to return it to its original state. Just like with dynamic props, if the prop remains lit, fold and roll the blanket once again. Repeat as necessary until the prop goes out. Next up, multi-wick props. Multi-wick props are those props that tend to have multiple wicks spread out over a wide area. Examples of this include fans, triads, dragon staves, or any other fire prop wherein the shape of the prop prevents us from rolling up the safety blanket like a burrito around its wicks. As with dynamic and static props, start by spreading out the safety blanket on the ground in front of you and having the performer place their prop in the middle of it. Fold the blanket away from you and then proceed to fold each corner of it diagonally over the remaining empty space. Create as tight a seal as you can around the prop. Again, count off 5 seconds, thinking 1 1000, 2 1000, 3 1000, 4 1000, 5 1000. Now unroll and unfold the blanket, making sure to return it to its original state. As with dynamic or static props, if the prop remains lit, fold the blanket once again, and again, repeat as necessary until the prop goes out. A special case of this is the dragon staff, because it combines elements of MultiWick props as well as static props. For dragon staff, once again, spread out the safety blanket in front of you and have the performer place the staff in the center of the blanket, end down with the other end of the staff pointing up towards the sky. Fold the safety blanket over each pair of wicks one by one and hold the ends of the blanket tightly around the center staff. Count off 5 seconds and unfold the blanket, making sure to return it to its original state. Once again, if the prop remains lit, repeat this process until you can get it out. Of course, there are also props that are difficult to put out on the ground due to either being attached to the performer or to form factors that don't really work with any of the methods that we've outlined thus far. These props tend to break down into 2 different categories, small wick and long wick props. Small wick props include things like fire hoops, palm torches, and hip belts. Putting out these props requires just a little bit more collaboration between the safety spotter and the performer. The safety spotter will want to be standing with their safety blanket cupped in their hands. Have the performer present one of their wicks and wrap the safety blanket around the wick. Make sure to keep your hands under the wick to avoid burning them with any heat transfer. Count to 5 and unroll the blanket to remove it. It is really unlikely, but if the wick remains lit, again, repeat this process until you put it out. Our final case are big wick props. These props include long sections of wicking that may be prohibitively large to put out using other methods. Props that fall into this category include snakes, whips, jump ropes, and swords. Putting these props out requires a bit more work, but the ideas that we've discussed for how to put out fires still apply. To extinguish a large wick prop, you'll spread the safety blanket out on the ground and ask the performer to place the prop down with the wick lying lengthwise across it and the handle of the prop near the edge of the blanket. You'll fold the blanket over the prop and away from yourself and then roll the blanket up like a burrito around the wick. It is likely that part of the wick will not be covered to start with, and that's totally fine. Just make sure the part of the wick closest to the handle is put out before you go any further. You'll then grip the rolled up safety blanket with the prop inside of it and have either the performer or your other hand grip the exposed handle. Pull the handle slowly to slide the full length of the prop through the point that the other hand is gripping until the entire wick is clear of the blanket. Make sure that the section of wick that's been put out does not come in contact with any sections that have still yet to be extinguished. Otherwise, there's a good chance that you'll reignite the entire prop. It should also be said that if the blanket has a lot of fuel residue on it, it's not unlikely that the blanket itself will become lit in the process of putting out a prop this way. If that happens, you've got 2 options. The first option is if the prop is flexible, you can always coil it up into the center of the blanket and put it out like you would a set of poi, folding it away from you and then rolling it up like a burrito to put it out. The other option, of course, is that you can use the blanket on itself. Once you've managed to clear the prop from the blanket, you can fold the blanket back over itself to hopefully extinguish whatever flames have been set. Now, we didn't cover every possible prop here, but this should give you an idea of how to tackle putting out a wide variety of different ones. Even if I didn't list a particular prop here, you should be able to sort out the best method for putting it out based upon a similar prop that does appear on this list. I will also highly recommend that literally anybody who wants to spin fire should take the Fire Safety Certification course from Flow Arts Institute. They've aggregated reams of useful data on the best techniques for keeping you safe. You'd be surprised how much info is in here. I've been spinning for years and I still learned a lot when I took the course myself. I'll link to it down in the description. As you can probably tell, this video was a team effort that required a lot of help from a lot of friends. So I'd like to just take a moment to thank Carly Bellingham, Iman Bowman, Kang Dang, Alex Nicolo, Kyle Rasmussen, James Small, and Sam Stevens for their help in getting this video made. Y'all rock. In the coming weeks, I'm going to be releasing videos on how to put out specific props, so keep an eye out. Thanks so much to Mayday Atlanta for sponsoring this month's videos and for providing me with their amazing safety blankets. Also, please make sure to subscribe and ring that bell because otherwise you might not know when I upload a new video. YouTube changes its algorithm constantly, and clicking that notification bell is the only way to guarantee that you'll see my new videos when they're uploaded. And of course, a big thank you to all of my wonderful supporters on Patreon. They make this video and all the videos on my channel possible. If you'd like to support the work that I do, please head on over to patreon.com/DrexFactorPoi and sign up. You get to vote in which video topics I tackle, as well as great exclusive content, plus tons of other rewards. Thanks so much in advance.